Daniel, Jackie, thanks for joining us. I think, guys, we have obviously something really cool here. We have two innovative CEOs and founders of startups doing really, really cool stuff in the space, right? And I think what we want to do here is obviously get to know you folks a little bit, get to learn a little bit more about Superlinked and Relevance AI. And obviously then we'll kind of transition that into more of an AI conversation, how you're using Redis and kind of where you see this space going in the future. Does that work?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, awesome. Let's take a step back a little bit. Why don't you both introduce yourselves before we even get to the company? You guys, maybe just a little bit about your history, kind of your technology background before you even decided to found Superlinked and Relevance AI.
Sounds good. I'll start.
Go
Is that okay, Daniel?
Yes. This one time.
One time, yeah. But I have a pretty interesting background. So my background is actually in data science and ML and AI, like a lot of you folks in the crowd. So before starting my own company, I was the youngest head of machine learning for a 17,000 employee insurance company. Helped essentially use vector databases to save them multiple millions of dollars in fraud. But actually, more excitingly, before that, won a couple awards as a data scientist. But more importantly, I actually built multiple mobile apps that total about 7.5 million users, number one on the App Store, Play Store. So yeah, my journey to data science and AI was always kind of filled with curiosity. When you have users, you have data, how can you make use of it? So that's a bit about my background.
And solving actual problems with the
Yes.
tech, right? So we can talk about reference architectures all day long, but if we don't help with the fraud or help the users, then it's all for nothing. Thanks for having me. I'm Daniel, one of the two co-founders of Superlinked. So a little bit on the sort of background side, right? Before Superlinked, I was ML tech lead at YouTube in YouTube Ads for about 6 years. And what we were up to was building systems that help people buy ads. So, we all experience ads when they're chasing us around the website. But the process of actually, the advertiser deciding what ad to, how to configure it, and if it's worth paying for it, all that money that YouTube gets, there is a kind of a forecasting step that needs to happen in the planning process of those campaigns. And I was a tech lead for doing that for eventually pretty much all of YouTube ad campaigns, which by the time I left the company was about $10 billion a year. And of course, a lot of vectors used to describe the future users coming to the website, the ads, and how they should be matched together, and how those campaigns will compete. So building kind of large-scale simulations, and then also kind of machine learning systems around it.
Very cool. So we got some credibility on the stage, is what I hear. So why don't we go into the companies? Daniel, why don't I start with you now? Why don't you give us a little bit of an overview of Superlinked, both from kind of a business perspective and then technically how you're kind of powering that?
So we, heard about, I guess, maybe a quick question. So who of you here actually tried vector search already? Hands up, okay. 20%, okay. You will, once you do that, you will realize that all of that technology is only as good as the quality of the results you get out of the system, the relevance of the results. And Superlinked is an open source framework and soon a cloud product that helps you increase that relevance, right? So we help companies create better vectors by combining more of the context around, let's say, the text or documents they want to index. There is usually, in reality, more metadata around those documents. Can be behavioral, can be content type features. The framework helps you combine it all, make better vectors, do it also for the queries, and then get results that, convert in kind of e-commerce recommendation system setting, or also like, finding the right information in a knowledge base, the stuff that comes at the top or feeds the language model to produce an answer better be the right information. And we help do that, and we integrate with Redis for the underlying vector indexing. So the two solutions work together.
Perfect. We'll get deeper into that
Yes,
in a minute. Jackie, why don't you give us an overview of Relevance AI?
Yeah, sure. I was going to say, the amount of times you said relevance, I feel like you should take our company name instead.
You guys can be Superlinked.
We can
We'll
do a
do it.
deal right now on stage.
Yeah. So at Relevance AI, we're building the home of the AI workforce. So previously the NVIDIA folks actually spoke about agentic AI. That's what we specialize in. So we essentially allow businesses and teams to be able to build and customize their very own AI agents to help automate some of those really repetitive and manual and honestly very boring tasks in the day-to-day work of a lot of these different teams. So we work with some of the most awesome tech companies in the world, such as like Autodesk, Roku, Blizzard, Activision, etc. But also some of the really upcoming startups such as Ashby, Safety Culture, etc. So yeah, that's kind of what we specialize in. It's great to be here.
Great. Thank you both. Very cool. So we'll stick with you, Jackie. Why don't you go like a level deeper now in terms of just AI and ML problems that you're solving at Relevance and how you're doing that?
Yeah, so as mentioned, we kind of bring AI agents to the world. So that means we're helping people, and when I say AI agents, specifically actually autopilot agents. So we do have some copilot stuff, but mainly autopilot agents. So that means we can actually help businesses automate a complete business function end to end. So that means, for example, customer support, business development, even marketing, etc. So that's how we've been helping businesses, not only external businesses, even ourselves. So we actually do not have a team of sales development reps. We only have account executives because, quite frankly, the sales development cycle is something that a lot of salespeople just don't like doing. They don't like Googling a lot about these companies. They rather just get it handed to them. They don't want to be always typing up cold emails, etc. Doing calls that honestly is quite repetitive. So we essentially
You're talking to a
help them.
salesperson here. Settle down.
Yeah.
Updating the CRM.
Yeah.
Don't forget that one. Yeah.
Updating the CRM, it's great at doing that.
Sheesh.
It makes sure it adds to Salesforce, HubSpot, etc. But yeah, no, that's how agents have and AI specifically have actually already started helping companies.
Very cool.
All right. More details, technical details, right? I'm the second one answering the same question, so I have to remember what you actually asked.
Well, why don't we take a step? Why don't we keep moving then?
Right.
Let's transition to your Redis journey. Okay. Why don't we go there?
Yeah,
Obviously.
yeah.
So maybe you can walk a little bit into why you partnered with Redis. What were your core kind of infrastructure, AI challenges, and talk a little bit about how Redis helped you achieve this.
Right. So, I mean, one piece of context for choosing a vector database that probably everybody in the room who tried that realized there is a whole bunch of offerings on the market. So how should you navigate the process of choosing one, right? And for us, it starts with actually thinking about what our system needs, and then using that as a context for the choice, right? Instead of chasing whatever is the latest Twitter, hype, start with the requirements. And for us, because as I mentioned, we put more context into these vectors, it means that anything about, let's say, a customer changes, we need to update the vector and make a new version, which means that for the vector database, we don't not only care about the speed of finding the vectors in it, but also how quickly can the database update its index when the vectors change. So for us, that was a major requirement, and we looked at the market, we benchmarked pretty much everything, and Redis came out on top in terms of the speed of the updates, also the speed of the querying, of course. And so that was kind of the starting point. And then from there, working very closely with Tyler and the team also helped a ton in implementing, all our requirements, and this was actually 4 years ago, so we have been doing this for a while with you guys, and it works so well that we sort of not only use Redis for our own deployments, but also partner with Redis on helping other companies improve vector search quality, right? So I think that's that's really putting the actions behind the words, right?
Very cool. Thank you. Jackie, what about you? Like your Redis journey?
Yeah, my one's an interesting one. So, our company name's called Relevance AI, and the reason for that is actually we started off as a vector database company back in 2020. We bought the domain vectordatabase.com, etc. So we were pretty early on it. And then as soon as we started building it, we realized we didn't want to become like, database optimization experts. So we started, moving towards upper side of the stack. We started looking at agents. And that also meant we didn't want to, start maintaining our own vector database. So we started looking on the market. We tried, very many different ones, such as like Quadrant, OpenSearch, etc. And then when we came upon Redis, the names, the tagline stays true. It was incredibly fast. It was way faster than our own implementation. We saw like essentially vector search speeds for pretty complicated ones go from like 2 seconds down to like 10 milliseconds. And yeah, so now we essentially use Redis for a feature we called Advanced RAG, which essentially is actually really focused on really high accuracy RAG, but also now, thanks to Redis, very high speed and fast RAG as well. So yeah.
All right. Mic drop right there. Tyler, you like that? Thank you. That was great. Why don't we have some other kind of founders and members of startups in the crowd. We walked you through a little bit what we've done in Copilot, trying to bring, obviously, AI to our organization, to our products. You talked a little bit about not needing SDRs and BDRs. As kind of CEOs of startups, where else are you looking to implement AI to get efficiencies, to drive business value or revenue? Jackie, why don't you go?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, everywhere. I try to do it as many places as possible. In fact, my own email inbox is managed by our own AI agents. For those who have emailed me on the Redis team, I'm sorry. You guys don't actually know that, but now you know. So yeah, no, I really try to find as many places we can bring essentially AI agents to. And it's honestly really fun because you kind of start understanding what the LLMs are capable of, what agents are capable of. But some areas that I want us to do even more is, for example, like code. There's a lot more LLM models that are really great at code. Bringing that to agents is something that I really want to improve upon. More code being shipped, better product we can have as well. But there's some really interesting other areas. We're starting to do this for like procurement, like actually filling up these really long procurement docs. When we work with enterprises, now we're actually using AI agents to actually fill that up for us, submitting forms, etc. So yeah, but definitely it's something I want to keep having more and more AI agents. To be honest, I want more AI agents than employees in our company. So yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I think it's useful to, as we sort of, as the options explode, I think it's useful to have some kind of way to prioritize what you want to try. And yeah, I would go back to, thinking about what actually doesn't work as well within the organization and where the automation, AI-based or otherwise, has the largest impact. Because then it also kind of makes you stick with it and actually not just, try 5 things and then, not really have a plan on how to implement it and get the value out of it. So I think part of what's going on in the space is that everybody is a little bit stuck in kind of proof of concept and window shopping. And these tools are not magic at the end of the world, right? Like on one hand, for engineers to really benefit from code generation or improving the engineering process is also like a skill, right? Mm-hmm. So just adding a bunch of code review agents and then hoping that one of them will be clearly better or you'll right away get the value, I think it's not super realistic. And I think it's useful to, like sit down and think about it as you would about any other change and be intentional about the outcomes and, making people actually invest effort into trying the system properly. For us, it's mainly around the engineering process. So anything from kind of how you handle your PRDs and design docs through assisting the developers with writing code, all the way to pull request reviews. You can have bots that look at all your pull requests and identify issues that it's sort of like a junior engineer taking a first pass and just spotting, here is like an issue that then the senior person can not, can skip those and not waste time on that. So it's sort of like having an intern. I don't know, maybe that's the metaphor. Like you are hiring an intern. You have to train them, you have to spend some time with them, but
Feed
then
them
you get
coffee. Yep.
Yeah.
That's the one from Elon, the actual robot.
Yeah.
That's for the coffee.
Maybe you can go on that. You kind of talked about everywhere you could put AI, right, within relevance. You kind of talked about some of the challenges and maybe misconceptions that could be out there as you're rolling this out within an organization. Like maybe you add on top of that, like talking to the crowd, what are some misconceptions that you've kind of seen or some challenge that you've seen that you could educate us on?
Yeah, no, definitely. As kind of Daniel mentioned, the ambition is wanting to roll it out to everything, but there is definitely some key pieces that you want to make sure that you have set in place. One setting expectation is that when it comes to AI, honestly, the first day is its worst day. So the models are constantly evolving. What didn't work, let's say 2 months ago, now probably works. And that's a really important thing to know, is that whatever bias you have against the AI models, against AI in general right now, it needs to evolve as you kind of see the technology shifts. The other really, really important thing, and probably the most important thing, is that whenever you're kind of tackling an AI project, make sure you have domain experts. It's something that we really pride ourselves on, that allows us to have our agents actually be deployed into production and actually interacting with customers, is that we actually work with domain experts on the team. So we actually learn about that exact process, show them how to use our platform to actually replicate that exact process in agents. We have the evaluation systems. We have human in the loop as well, so that they can slowly gain confidence in essentially the AI agents for them to perform work on their behalf. And I think that's really, really crucial, is to make sure, to wrap it up, make sure to have a domain expert. And honestly, AI is evolving. Whatever didn't work yesterday might work tomorrow. So yeah.
Great, super insightful.
Yeah, maybe just building on that. So I mentioned, maybe how to adopt new tools. But when we talk about actually building AI-powered tools, how should we go about making sure that project succeeds? And one way to tap into the domain experts is to sit down with them and upfront, before you even start writing the code, design your evaluation, right? So maybe you have heard about test-driven development. Hopefully, most of us did. The equivalent here is like eval-driven development, right? So basically, let's say you want to augment your support staff. You can look at your training materials for new support agents. You can sit down with the people in the trenches actually doing the job, and you can work with them to design an eval that collects, the top 100 questions that those agents might be going into the knowledge base to figure out, and for those questions, collect the answers, right? And that's your kind of golden set that you then can use to evaluate the different solutions. You can build prototypes, you can iterate, and keep it at least somewhat scientific, right? It doesn't have to be 1,000 questions. You are not actually training a model. You are just using it as a gauge to figure out how far do you still have to go to launch stuff in production, because that's the objective, right? You have your eval, you put sort of a mark in the accuracy, right? Like, okay, we want 95 of these things to go really well and 5% of these things to not go terribly, and maybe that's the threshold, and then you can work towards that and manage the project kind of reasonably. So maybe that's on the process side, and then kind of one gotcha, or sort of one thing I would call out that tends to trip up people with vector search is that when you use these embedding models that are out there, open source, proprietary, basically all of those are either text or image to vector, right? You put in, maybe you have a PDF, you OCR it, you get the text, you run it through a text embedding, you get the vector. That's the core of the system. What I would suggest you to think through is that in reality, you likely don't just have text, right? You are doing some kind of RAG over a knowledge base or your customer data or whatever it is. There will be parts of the data that's numbers and maybe references to other documents, categorical data, right? Which is not pure text. And what people do as the first step is they take all of that information, all of that JSON object, they stringify it, they make one big string, run it through an embedding model, and then use those vectors for searching. And that's source of a problem because, yeah, text embeddings are good at embedding text, but for example, not numbers, right? So once you kind of start to get into that realistic scenario of having all kinds of different data types, that's the time to start to think, okay, how am I handling all this metadata? How am I bringing it into the vectors? And that's what actually we do with Superlinked. Yeah, so that's kind of the one technical tip.
Thank you. Jackie, you just talked about, hey, something that might not work 2 months ago could work today, right? So let's have some fun here for a little bit. Like, let's go out a couple years, 2, 3, 4 years. What's your prediction? What do you see happening in this space that maybe people aren't talking about right now? What are you most excited about?
Yeah, I mean, it would be wrong for me not to say what we currently do, which is the AI workforce. But honestly, I'm very genuinely excited about it. I really do believe that in a couple of years, AI employees are going to be the norm. We're going to start seeing the AI workforce make up more and more of the actual workforce. And it's going to be really, really good for humanity as well. Because one of the problems in the current workforce is that there's just so much repetitive and manual work. And we're actually already starting to see that in some of our customers where, for example, they used to have a BDR function. Now they don't have it anymore. They didn't actually fire all the people. They promoted all those people to AEs. So it's actually going to open up more and more interesting and very unique work. And that's something I'm really, really excited about because I do believe that by bringing the AI workforce to the world, we're going to see a doubling of human prosperity. More kind of technical side, I'm really excited about multi-agent system, OpenAI released Swarm. It's a really cool framework, something we've actually been using internally for a while. Not that exact one, but something very similar. I think there's going to be more and more stuff to be figured out there as well. Stuff like memory. How can you have memory systems be shared across multiple agents, multiple models? Semantic routing. That's something that's constantly being figured out even deeper and deeper as well. So those are some specific things I'm really excited about.
Yeah, I like the way you put it the other day that we will know that we live in the future once some decent portion of your colleagues on Slack will not be actual people, right? So you Slack somebody and you get the response at instantly at 2 a.m. I think that will be super exciting. Then how do we do performance reviews and all of that good stuff? I think I'm looking forward for just to see how people grapple with it and how we'll all figure it out because we'll for sure have to. For me, in terms of the future, I'm looking forward to this Gen AI kind of wave, hitting some of the non-text data out into organizations. In your organizations, you have been working very hard to fill up your data warehouse with a whole bunch of analytics events, right? And all kinds of other data that hasn't been in the spotlight for Gen AI because it's not just strings, right? And I'm looking forward to the systems advancing such that companies will be able to take advantage of all these, the text is sort of the part of the onion in the middle, but then we have all this other stuff we have been collecting as first-party data for a long time. And I think over the next couple of years, we'll be able to take proper advantage of that. So that should be cool.
Thank you. Well, let's go back to today. A couple questions so that you can kind of put Redis on the spot here a little bit. Obviously, you partner with us, but you partner with a lot of other technology partners and vendors. When you're venturing out to a new technology, especially in this space, forget the technology for a second. What are you looking for in a partner?
Yeah, I can start. But for us, it honestly always starts with the customers. So we speak to customers, we see what kind of technology that they are already using, and see how we can actually utilize our platform to integrate with that so that it can enhance further. Redis came up as a top one. It's used, honestly, everywhere. So that was a really our number one quality when we look for partners is that how much do our customers actually care about this partnership. The second part is the team, the Redis team, Tyler here, Kyra, et cetera, like, yourself as well. We talk to you guys and you just give so much support and help. And that's something that, you don't see in every partner. Some partners, they, as they kind of get bigger, they might not have that time. But I feel like with Redis, even though it's grown to such large size, it's always kind of given the time to the customers. It's always listening to the customers. It's always seeing how can they do more. So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, basically what he said.
We got to get to lunch. Let's go, right?
I mean, like we got the Slack Connect invite very early in our startup journey. So for the founders in the audience, I would just suggest to take advantage of that and actually reach out and don't feel like, we have to hit certain goals and become a big company and only then the big guys will actually talk to us, right? I suggest you go for it, and okay, there might be some that are less accessible, and I would say Redis is on the opposite extreme. So yeah, take advantage of it, pick their brain on how you are using Redis and what they see other companies doing that helps them succeed, and it's just like instant value, so no brainer. Yeah.
Very cool. Thank you. Well, Jackie, Daniel, first, thanks for coming. Thanks for chatting with us for the last 30 minutes. And thanks for the partnership. You guys have both been customers for a while. I think, you push us, but it's a fantastic partnership. You come to these events and speak for us. So from the whole Redis kind of team and family, really, thank you. And for everyone out there, take a look at these two companies. They're doing super cool stuff. And I think that's it. We're breaking for lunch.
Maybe just, anybody in the audience working on your vector search deployment with Redis and trying to figure out the relevance of the of the results. I think that's my LinkedIn QR code over there. So don't hesitate to reach out, and we're happy to help.
And automate BDRs.
Yes.
Yeah, come on.
and go to this guy for sales agents.
Excellent.
Pretty much.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers, everyone.
We did it. We made it to the end. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you got a lot out of today. If you'd like to learn more, we encourage you to either connect with our speakers on LinkedIn, set up a meeting with the Redis team member at the link below, or both. And thanks so much. We look forward to seeing you next time, hopefully in person.